I spent 9 years with Jackson, accompanying him as he transformed from an unknown young man into a rising star in the business world. I moved out of my home to live with him in a small, rented room measuring just over 150 square feet. I attended social events with him, introduced him to connections, and developed a host of stomach problems from all the socializing for the company. Grace, just wait for me a little longer. Once I succeed, I'll make you the happiest person in the world. I can't remember which night Jackson suddenly said this to me. I only remember his eyes were incredibly bright then, filled entirely with me. So, I ignored everyone's warnings and plunged in headfirst, without a second thought. But I never imagined the young man whose eyes once held only me would betray me just a month before our wedding, rendering my past sincerity utterly worthless. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. I leaned weakly against the edge of the bathroom sink, my knuckles white as I massaged my throbbing stomach. I looked up and rubbed the slightly flushed face staring back from the mirror. Ms. Grace, are you all right? Mia, my assistant, spoke with a touch of anxiety from outside. I replied that I was fine and opened the door, though my steps felt unsteady. Ms. Grace, here's some hangover medicine and stomach medicine. I'll get you some hot water. I reached out and stopped Mia by the wrist, taking the pills from her hand and swallowing them whole. No need to bother. Those shrewd old-timers inside are almost done for. I rubbed my temples, then glanced at my wrist and sighed with relief. Half an hour. That should be enough time. Leaning weakly on Mia, I slowly made my way out of the private room. Once outside, I straightened up, smoothed my wrinkled skirt, and with a polite smile, opened the private room door. Just a little more, Grace. This project is crucial for Jackson and the Jiang. After forcing myself to maintain a final shred of composure to see off the clients, my legs gave out. I collapsed entirely onto Mia, my stomach burning as if it would explode. My breathing grew heavy, and when I spoke, my voice was laced with exhaustion. Don't take me home yet. Take me to the Sweets Bakery. After saying this, I completely relaxed and let Mia help me into the car. My hands, pressing against my stomach, were white-knuckled, and I leaned back in the seat, my mind hazy. Ms. Grace? Ms. Grace, we're here. Mia gently shook my arm, her voice soft, her gaze filled with worry. She held up the hot tea and medicine in her hand, speaking a little hesitantly. I saw you holding your stomach, so I bought some medicine and hot tea. You might feel better if you drink some. Hearing this, my hazy thoughts began to clear. The pain in my stomach miraculously lessened, and it felt as if a warmth had been poured into my heart, spreading a gentle heat. Thank you for today. I still have some things to do. If I remember correctly, your home is nearby. It's getting late, so you should go home first. I'll cover your fare, and I'll call a ride-sharing service later. After saying this, I got out of the car, took the tea and medicine from Mia, waved to her with a smile, and walked into the bakery. I wondered if the custom 9th anniversary cake was ready. At that thought, my steps quickened. But as I stood at the bakery entrance and looked up, my feet seemed glued to the spot, unable to move. The tea and pills slipped from my fingertips. Pedestrians on the street glanced my way, but I didn't notice them, my eyes fixed on the two people sitting inside the bakery. It was Jackson and an unfamiliar young woman. I stood there, stunned, my entire body instantly numb. My ears roared, and after the shock, came a nearly paralyzed daze. Impossible. It can't be. Maybe Jackson is just having dinner with a friend, or they're discussing something else. I instinctively tried to avoid that ugly possibility, constantly searching for reasons to convince myself to trust the person I had chosen. It wasn't until the coolness of large tears hitting my skin jolted me awake that I frantically pulled out my phone from my bag, my fingertips trembling as I held it. I held the dialing phone to my ear, yet I seemed unable to hear the soft beeping. All I could hear was the frantic pounding of my own heart in my chest, as if it were trying to break free, each beat more violent than the last. Hey, honey, what's wrong? Jackson's voice came from the other end of the line, filled with a familiar affection and clinginess, his tone as sweet and cloying as it had been 9 years ago. But the man before my eyes no longer seemed like the shy yet fervent 17-year-old who had looked at me 9 years ago. I was standing still, yet it felt as if I'd been dragged into a twisted, desperate world. The fervent gaze of the 17-year-old boy looking at me and Jackson, now 26, holding another woman in the bakery, horrifyingly merged into one, utterly distorted. Are you missing me? I'll come back as soon as I finish up with the company, okay? Love you, honey. The call had already ended, but I self-destructively stared at the two people inside. I watched as the girl turned her head away, slightly annoyed, and Jackson helplessly rubbed her head, a wry smile playing on his lips. He reached out, pulled the girl opposite him into his embrace, and softly coaxed her. Honey, once I succeed, I won't let you be this tired anymore. I promise to make you the happiest person in the world. I suddenly remembered Jackson saying those exact words to me on a summer night when I was 23, after we'd finished a business deal and were sitting by the roadside. In that moment, as the moonlight fell, I had the fleeting illusion that we would grow old together. Back then, he also held me like this, his expression filled with tenderness and love, as if I were the most precious treasure in the world when he embraced me. How did it come to this? A colossal wave of helplessness and bewilderment washed over me. My eyes stung, and I crouched down, covering my face weakly, tears silently streaming through my fingers. Jackson said he's been tired of you for a long time. The person he loves most now is me. I stared at the message that popped up on my phone, my whole body trembling with anger. I looked up and met the provocative gaze of the girl in Jackson's arms. After meeting my gaze, a triumphant smile curved on her lips. She leaned in, laughing, and kissed the man in her arms. I awkwardly averted my gaze and turned my back as if fleeing, not daring to imagine how intertwined the two behind me were. Just the thought of those thin lips that once kissed me now pressed against another woman's brought an unspeakable pain slowly spreading from my heart to every limb. I don't know how I got home. I slumped onto the sofa like a zombie, my eyes blankly staring into space, the recent scene intertwining with memories from the past in my mind. The physical pain and emotional torment blurred my thoughts. In a daze, I seemed to see that summer 9 years ago, and the young man approaching me with a bouquet of white magnolias. Seeing the nervousness and fervent passion in the young man's eyes, I could no longer hold back the pent-up grievances in my heart. When I opened my mouth, only broken sobs escaped, and large tears streamed down my face. I watched the young man anxiously run toward the girl standing with her back turned not far away, his hands at his sides nervously clutching his clothes. He turned his head, took several deep breaths, and his outstretched hand trembled with tension. Grace, I like you. The girl turned around, revealing delicate features, her shyness mixed with a touch of childish willfulness. Even though her affection was practically overflowing from her eyes, she still primly proposed a 99-day trial. If you can pass my 99 days of various trials, I'll say yes. Back then, Jackson would travel across the city to find a specific mango pudding just because I mentioned wanting it. He meticulously remembered all my tastes and preferences, that I loved spicy food, that my milk tea should be 70% sweet, that I had to have strawberry milk from the school store every afternoon, and that his pockets were always filled with my favorite strawberry candies. Jackson, you know I'm the most petty person. You knew that. Why? Why did this happen? I curled up painfully on the sofa, unable to suppress the churning emotions inside me, sobbing aloud in agony. Honey, why are you sleeping here? I opened my eyes to see Jackson hurrying towards me. After placing the cake he was holding on the table, he reached out, picked me up by the waist, and walked towards the bedroom. After putting me on the bed, he placed my feet on his lap and warmed them in his hands. Watching his familiar gesture, my eyes felt a little sore, and I stared at him, somewhat dazed. In the years before the company went public, we had no money and could only squeeze into a cramped basement apartment. It would get terribly cold in winter, and I always felt cold, my feet like ice. He used to warm them for me just like this. I gazed at Jackson, whose expression was obscured by the shadows, and suddenly realized I couldn't seem to recall the past clearly anymore. Honey, you were amazing today. Mr. Davies has already received the collaboration request from that company. I didn't reply, just watched him silently, wanting to discern whether the look in his eyes was genuine or feigned. Seeing my silence, Jackson leaned in, trying to kiss me, his movements cloyingly intimate, seemingly no different from before. But as he leaned closer, the sweet, cloying perfume on him hit me, and the disgust welling up from deep within my heart made me abruptly turn my face and dry heave. The person above me stiffened, then after a moment's hesitation, gently patted my back twice. But I flinched away from his touch as if I had touched something filthy. Jackson froze for a few seconds, then his tone softened. He reached out and squeezed my somewhat cold fingertips, crouching down to meet my gaze. I'm sorry, honey, but the company has been really busy lately, and I haven't been able to make time for you. Please don't be mad at me, okay? Hearing this, I sneered softly, my throat tightening. I shook off Jackson's hands and turned my face away. Couldn't make time for me? Liar. Grace, what exactly do you mean by this? As a rising star in the business world in recent years, Jackson had never been humiliated like this. His sharp eyes glared at me impatiently, his thin lips pressed together. The affection in his eyes faded, revealing traces of coldness. Do you still love me? After I said this, I stared at Jackson without blinking, hoping to see a hint of guilt or reluctance in his eyes. But as I stared, my own eyes filled with moisture, and a thick fog rose. The face before me, and all the years that had passed, seemed to have changed in this dense fog. I'm sorry, honey, of course I love you. It's all my fault for being so busy with the company that you'd think otherwise. Jackson pulled me into his arms. His scent entwined around me, cocooning me, and for a moment, I had the illusion that he was afraid of me leaving. Honey, our wedding date is next month, and the big deals are closed. Why don't you just focus on preparing for our wedding at home? Then we can go to your favorite island resort. The wedding venue will be completely covered with your favorite magnolias and baby's breath. No, the company needs me. I interrupted Jackson emotionlessly, my voice stiff and cold. The tenderness on Jackson's face vanished, replaced by a condescending and indifferent expression as he looked down at me. Grace, why can't you be as well-behaved as you used to be? You've become too strong-willed, you're not like your old self. Hearing this, I couldn't help but want to laugh, but as I laughed, tears welled up and spilled out. I'm strong-willed? If I weren't strong-willed, how would those deals come in? If I weren't strong-willed, what about those people eyeing the company? The air fell silent, a standoff without words. Jackson's cell phone rang in his pocket. I saw his expression soften instantly. He nervously rubbed his fingertips, avoiding my gaze, then mumbled something about needing to cool off before hastily grabbing his clothes and heading out. Jackson, do you remember what you said 7 years ago, on the night we got together? You said Jackson would only love me, Grace, in this lifetime. Jackson's footsteps hesitated for a moment as he walked out, then he continued without looking back. I stared blankly at the now closed door and laughed foolishly, lost in thought for who knows how long. The sharp pain in my chest mingled with a heavy ache in my abdomen. I clenched my teeth, barely able to suppress the trembling in my throat that felt like sobs, and intertwined my fingers, covering my tear-soaked face. As the abdominal pain became more pronounced, I struggled to get up and reach for my phone nearby. My hands trembling, I dialed the top number, and when I spoke, my voice was choked with tears. Jackson. It hurts so much. After forcing out those last words with my remaining consciousness, I fainted. In a daze, I opened my eyes and saw Jackson in front of me, holding a girl and looking down at me, saying he had fallen in love with someone else, then slowly walking away with her in his arms. Shock mixed with agony engulfed me. I cried out and chased after them, wailing desperately. No. Jackson. I suddenly opened my eyes, only to find my hand pinned, unable to move. I turned my head and saw Jackson sleeping beside me, dark circles under his eyes, still tightly holding my hand. I stared fixedly, my gaze tracing the features of the man who had occupied years of my youth. The one I had fallen in love with at first sight when I was coming of age. His formerly handsome features had grown deeper and more profound with years of experience, and his demeanor carried a hint of sharpness. Even now, with his eyes closed and leaning back, his powerful aura remained undeniable. It was the same face, yet now it felt so unfamiliar. It's changed. Everything has changed. I turned my head and wiggled my fingers, trying to pull my hand free, only to feel the grip on my knuckles tighten abruptly. Jackson, sleeping beside me, suddenly woke up. Seeing me, he let out a sharp breath of relief, then pulled me tightly into his arms, his whole body trembling. His voice carried an unconcealable fear. Grace, I dreamed you left, that you didn't want me anymore. I paused, saying nothing, but stiffened when I felt tears fall onto my neck. My nose stung, and tears threatened to fall. Jackson, do you really love me? Stay put. I'll go get the doctor. After saying this, Jackson squeezed my palm, then rushed out, his steps somewhat unsteady. I leaned back on the hospital bed, watching Jackson's retreating figure with hesitation. Finally, I closed my eyes and dismissed the chat window with my lawyer. After a long wait, a doctor came in. I glanced behind me and didn't see Jackson. After a moment of hesitation, I asked the doctor where Jackson had gone. He just came to call me. As soon as he stepped out the door, he got a call. It sounded like a girl crying and saying something, and then he rushed off. The expression on my face turned cold. My fingers, clutching the phone, unconsciously tightened. I let out a self-deprecating laugh, but there was no mirth in my eyes. Ms. Grace, I regret to inform you that the cancer cells in your stomach have started to spread. It's currently mid-stage, and there's still a chance of recovery. Was that gentleman just now your family member? Hospitalization and surgery require a family member's signature. We reach on the phone. Do you have any other family? I walked aimlessly down the street, the doctor's words replaying in my mind, but I felt nothing. My heart seemed to be sealed off by a tangled mess, unable to turn, leaving only indifference and helplessness. I should be crying, shouldn't I? Perhaps I'd already shed all the tears I had for this lifetime in the past few days, because now, I couldn't even squeeze out a single drop. I drifted like a body emptied of its spirit. Home, I should go home, shouldn't I? But could that place still be called a home? I suddenly felt incredibly tired. A massive sense of powerlessness enveloped me like an airtight net, draining all my strength. I could only accept everything, weakly and calmly. Unconsciously, I found myself walking to the front door of the house Jackson and I bought 4 years ago when we made our first large sum of money. This house was purchased under my name. The moment I received the deed to the house, he scooped me up, saying he would let me live in bigger and better houses in the future. Indeed, as the company grew, we moved from one house to another, larger one. It seemed we owned more and more, but our time together grew less and less. I stared blankly at this once small house, and before my eyes, I seemed to see again the times we spent in the garden planting climbing roses, watching each other play and tease, and sitting in the yard gazing at the stars. But the large patches of climbing roses once planted in the garden had long since withered, overgrown with sparse weeds. To this day, whether it's Jackson or this long-neglected garden, everything seems to tell me that all those past beautiful memories have completely vanished, transforming into fleeting remnants in my memory, leaving only hazy afterimages veiled by a filter of beauty, swirling uncertainly, almost tearing at my heart. I hesitated, then walked inside, my hands brushing over the lounge chair where we once lay together in the yard, over the swing he built for me, over the magnolia tree he specially planted for me. This card and this house are yours. Don't look for me anymore. My wife and I are getting married, Ashley. We're done. Hearing that all too familiar voice, my fingers gripping the doorknob suddenly tightened. Jackson, I love you so much, please don't leave me. I won't compete with her. I don't ask for much, I just ask to have you for a little while sometimes. Didn't you say she only cares about work, and you don't feel any masculine dignity from her? Jackson, please don't abandon me. Jackson, you know I'm not like her. With a job, with the company, with you. She has too much, and I only have you, Jackson. Jackson, please kiss me. Listening to the sounds of kissing and the obscene whispers coming from inside, my eyes looked hollow. I stumbled back 2 steps, trembling, and clutched my chest in pain. So, that's what he always thought of me. He couldn't find dignity with me, so he sought it from someone else. Disgusting, utterly disgusting. Unable to control my emotions, I rushed to the side garden and began to vomit, feeling as if I were throwing up bile itself. There was a burning sensation in my stomach, but the pain in my heart and the nausea were stronger. My fingertips, clutching the tree trunk, curled slightly, and a sense of almost numb helplessness welled up within me. Everything should come to an end now. The pitch-dark room suddenly lit up. The light stung my eyes, making me squint, and when I looked up, I saw a surprised Jackson standing at the entrance, having changed his clothes. Honey, how did you get home? How are you feeling? I spoke coldly from the sofa, my gaze towards Jackson devoid of warmth, only an icy chill. I'm already exhausted from the company today. Can you stop being so unreasonable? Jackson rubbed his forehead in exasperation, his voice tinged with impatience. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh, my eyes filled with disgust as I looked at Jackson's changed clothes. After a long silence, I suddenly spoke. If I found out today at the hospital that I have late-stage cancer, what would you do? I stared calmly at Jackson's expression, but my tightly clenched hands involuntarily betrayed the hidden glimmer of hope in my heart, hope that the young man wouldn't have been transformed into someone so despicable and barely recognizable by time. Why are you so unreasonable now, even making jokes about yourself like this? Hearing this, my pinched fingertips relaxed. The last shred of hope in my heart completely vanished with his words. I almost wanted to laugh, but couldn't manage a smile. Honey, don't say things like that anymore. You know I can't live without you. I know it was wrong of me to leave suddenly today. I'll call the doctor right now to ask about your condition, okay? Please don't be mad. Jackson's tone softened. He sat beside me, reaching out to pull me into his arms, while his other hand began to call the hospital. I turned my head, suddenly curious about what his expression would be when he heard I had mid-stage stomach cancer. Pain? Indifference? Or happiness? Before the call connected, the door automatically opened. Jackson and I looked over at the same time and saw Ashley standing outside. I carefully scrutinized the girl, who hadn't even graduated from college yet. She was exactly as my investigation had revealed, quite ambitious and manipulative. Mr. Jackson, you didn't take your keys and documents. Hearing this, Jackson's stiff expression softened slightly. He quickly got up, didn't spare me another glance, mumbled something about handling company matters, and then hastily pulled Ashley outside. I told you already, Jackson doesn't love you anymore. The person he loves now is me. The message was accompanied by a photo of her and Jackson lying naked together. I let out a low, scornful laugh at this childish declaration of dominance, then opened my phone and called my lawyer. Please help me organize all the shares you enter my name as soon as possible and draft a share transfer agreement. I never expected Michael to come looking for me, let alone to know about my condition. When I saw him sitting in the back seat of the car, holding my hospital records and asking me what they were, I could no longer suppress the fear and grievances within me. Before I could even open my mouth, large tears began to stream down my face. Michael's tone suddenly changed. He carefully pulled me into his arms, gently patting my back like he used to when I was little, his voice trembling and full of heartache. How did you get so thin? Just those few words were enough for me to finally release the long-accumulated pain and grievances in my heart. I openly sobbed into Michael's arms, as if trying to cry out all the recent suffering. Grace, Michael will take you home. How about we go overseas for treatment? I slowly composed myself, then pulled away from Michael's embrace, my eyes red and swollen as I slowly shook my head. Michael, just give me 2 more days. What's so good about that scoundrel? Are you really this stubborn? Before, when you secretly came back from overseas, I didn't stop you. When you suffered for a man, I couldn't convince you. That beast has ruined you like this, what more are you waiting for? Michael's voice was filled with resentment, and by the end, his eyes were red and he choked, unable to speak, as he stroked my head with a hint of pleading in his tone. Michael already told you that Jackson isn't someone you can trust. He came from that kind of family, he's capable, but his ambition is too great. How much does true sincerity really matter to him? Michael, I know all of that. I don't regret my past choices, but this time I won't look back. I just want to transfer my shares in the next 2 days. I poured half my efforts into the company too. I can't just give it away. Michael sighed, seeing the determination in my eyes. He gently stroked my head, his expression ink red. I bleed tender. It's good that you've made your decision, but we can't delay your condition. We'll leave in 2 days at the most. After settling Michael into the hotel, I breathed a sigh of relief. A strange sense of confidence and peace settled in my heart, and I began preparing to handle the properties and other assets under my name. My phone rang. I glanced at it, answered, then tossed it aside without speaking. A few seconds later, Jackson's voice came through, low and tinged with a hint of grievance. Honey, are you still mad? You haven't made a call to me in ages. I didn't reply, silently continuing to organize the assets under my name that could be liquidated, but the person on the other end continued to prattle on. Honey, it was my fault for having a bad attitude that day. I was just so scared, I couldn't bear to hear anything like that. I can't accept any possibility like that. Don't joke about being sick, I'm really afraid. I didn't reply, just scoffed. The person on the other end, however, showed no impatience at all, their attitude so good it was as if we were back to when we first started dating, tolerating all my spoiled whims. The date is almost here, honey. When will you come so we can try on the wedding attire together? I specifically had it custom made overseas, I'm sure you'll love it. The person on the other end waited for a long time without a reply from me before slowly hanging up. By the time I finished organizing the documents, it was evening. Feeling a bit sticky, I went to the bathroom to take off my clothes and caught sight of a scar on my abdomen, which made me pause. It was only after Jackson and I got together that I learned about his family background. His father was a gambling addict who committed domestic violence, and his mother was cowardly and greedy for money. In high school, he always looked thinner compared to others. I later found out it was because the money he earned from part-time jobs was barely enough for tuition, very little left for daily expenses, so he often went hungry. Hearing this, my heart ached terribly, but knowing he was too proud to accept my money, I found ways to bring more food from home, and eventually managed to help him gain some weight. One ordinary evening, Jackson was walking me home when his gambling-addicted parents suddenly appeared, demanding money. Where would Jackson have gotten money back then? He just shielded me behind him, urging me to run, standing in front to block those 2 covetous pairs of eyes. What happened next? His enraged father pulled out a kitchen knife to threaten him, but I, afraid Jackson would get hurt, stepped forward to protect him. That was the first time I ever saw him cry. All the hardships he had endured since childhood had never brought him to tears, yet he wept because of my pain. I should have felt the pain, but instead, I was overcome by an irresistible sense of affection for this unique show of care, so much so that I even forgot my body's pain and felt heartache for his tears. Later, his parents were sentenced for assault, and we supported each other along the way. It seemed everything was getting better. I touched the scar on my abdomen with a bitter smile. After much hesitation, I booked an in-home service with a tattoo parlor. "Miss, the flower you chose is truly beautiful. What kind of flower is it?" Watching the tattoo artist gradually cover the old scar, I felt a sudden excitement, as if I were about to be reborn. I smiled and slowly spoke. "Toomey flower. When Toomey flowers bloom their last, the floral season ends, through dust and smoke, how much is known." After hanging up on several calls from Jackson's good friend, I finally answered another, my expression filled with impatience. "Sister-in-law, Jackson's drunk and keeps muttering your name. He won't let any of us touch him. Could you come pick him up?" I sighed, checked the time, and got out of bed. When I arrived, I saw Jackson and a group of people sitting around on the street. I opened the car door and stepped out, then spotted his other woman hovering near Jackson not far away. "Ashley, I'm warning you, don't harbor intentions you shouldn't. Sister-in-law and Jackson have nearly 10 years of history. Weigh that yourself before you humiliate yourself." Hearing's friend say this, a sarcastic smile touched my lips. The next second, Jackson pulled me into a full embrace. The wave of disgust rising from deep within me made me instinctively push Jackson away. I rubbed the skin he had touched, muttering, "You're disgusting." The others, seeing my sudden appearance, guiltily glanced at Ashley. "Honey, don't you love me anymore? You used to tell me you loved me every day, but lately, you never say it." Jackson slumped on the ground, looking up at me, the corners of his eyes downturned and slightly red. His expression and actions were clearly the same as before, but I felt no heartache, only endless annoyance. "Yes, I don't love you anymore. I find you disgusting." I watched Jackson, seeing his eyes, contrary to mine, fill with moisture like a rising river, slowly spreading to his eyelids and extinguishing the light in his gaze. "From now on, don't bother me with these things. Please bother Ms. Ashley next to you." After saying this, I stopped looking at their expressions, turned, and left. Sitting in the car, I saw the message confirming the shares and assets had been received. I raised an eyebrow, then made a call. "Michael, everything's handled. Let's leave tomorrow." Jackson slowly came to, rubbing his forehead. He looked around for me, and when he saw Ashley emerge from the kitchen in her pajamas, he questioned her with a cold tone. "What are you doing here? This is Grace and my home. Get out." Ashley's face went pale for a moment upon hearing this, and her voice sounded somewhat heartbroken. "Jackson, last night you made so many calls and she didn't pick up. I was the one who brought you home. Can't you feel a little sympathy for me?" Jackson's face darkened, and he said nothing. As he sat down at the dining table, he received a call from Mr. Davies. "Mr. Jackson, someone came to the company today claiming to be one of our board members," he said. "Ms. Grace sold all her shares to him." The spoon in Jackson's hand clattered onto the dining table. He seemed to repeat the words as if he hadn't heard them clearly, then abruptly stood up, knocking over the soup bowl and porridge, spilling them all over the floor. "Impossible. This company is the culmination of our efforts over these years. Grace values it as much as I do. She wouldn't sell her shares. Go find out where this person stole those shares from." Jackson kept mumbling impossible under his breath, his hands trembling as he opened the call interface and dialed my number. Listening to the ringing tone, he paced back and forth anxiously, like a mad dog that had lost its treasure. The call couldn't reach on the phone. Jackson grew increasingly agitated, pacing incessantly, his fingertips trembling as he clutched his phone. Just then, a call came in. Jackson's eyes lit up, and with hope filling his gaze, he answered the phone. "Honey, where are you? I'm scared to death." "Hello, sir. Are you Ms. Grace's family member? Her stomach cancer can't be delayed any longer. We hope you can bring Ms. Grace to the hospital for treatment as soon as possible." The phone in Jackson's hand slowly slipped. He stood still for a moment, then his entire body began to tremble. Suddenly, he slapped himself hard across the face, then fell to his knees, covering his face and sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, it's all my fault." Seeing this, Ashley rushed to help Jackson, but he backhanded her, sending her sprawling onto the ground. He grabbed her by the neck and furiously questioned her. "Did you tell Grace? Otherwise, how would she suddenly sell her shares and disappear? Ashley's face was ashen. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled to speak, choked by his grip. This is all because I love you. Jackson scoffed, his expression grim as he carelessly pushed Ashley away. He looked down at her, his eyes revealing undisguised murderous intent. You'd better pray I find grace, or I'll make your life a living hell. I wasn't actually surprised that Jackson would find me, because he knew since high school that I had no other family besides Michael, so he'd definitely be with Michael now. But I never expected to see Jackson so destitute. In just 2 months, Jackson seemed to have aged over a decade. He was gaunt and emaciated, no longer the handsome, strong, and spirited man he once was. He was pinned to the ground like a dog. After 2 months of hospitalization and chemotherapy, my cancer cells were controlled within a manageable range. Thanks to my improving mood, the spread of the cancer cells had also slowed significantly, and there was a 70% chance of successful surgery. The doctor advised me to go home and rest first, and once my body's nutrition improved, I could begin the surgery. Grace, don't look at that filth, you'll dirty your eyes. Michael pulled the clothes on my shoulders closer, shielding me in his embrace as he walked towards the villa. He waved a hand, signaling the housekeeper to throw the man out. Grace, I was wrong. Can you forgive me? Hearing this, a fierce look appeared in Michael's eyes. He gently settled me onto a chair, fastened the buttons on my clothes, then abruptly turned and punched Jackson. You scum tricked my sister and ruined her life, and you still have the audacity to show your face here. I'm letting you off easy only for Grace's sake. If you ever come near my sister again, I swear I'll kill you. Michael wiped his palm, which had struck Jackson, then disgustedly threw the silk scarf onto Jackson. Grace, have you forgotten all the days we shared? I love you, but you're so extraordinary, you do everything so well. I didn't know if I could keep you. I didn't even know why you would ever fall for me. Hearing this, I stopped moving forward, let out a low laugh, and then turned to stare at Jackson. My eyes were devoid of any warmth, and my voice was utterly cold, fueled by an uncontrollable rage. I forgot? Jackson, who exactly is it that forgot? I slowly walked closer, step by step, standing before him and looking down at Jackson, my eyes filled with disgust and hatred. What were you doing while I was out closing deals, drinking until I had stomach bleeding? You were fooling around with your lover. On our 9th anniversary, I went to pick up our custom-made cake, and guess what I saw? I saw you fooling around with someone else at the bakery where we first fell in love. What were you doing when I was alone in the hospital, getting my diagnosis? You were with her. You probably don't know that I actually went to the house we used to live in that day. Do you remember what you and she did there? Jackson heard this, first shaking his head, then nodding, his teeth clenched audibly. He stared directly at me, wanting to speak, to defend himself, but no words came out. He looked dazed and lost. Seeing him like this, I felt no flicker of emotion in my heart, only an overwhelming sense of disgust remained. Jackson, do you remember what I warned you about when I accepted your confession? Didn't I tell you I'm extremely petty? Never, ever betray me. Do you know how I feel looking at you right now? My lips curved into a smile, and my eyes held naked disgust and malice. You're disgusting. Jackson's expression went blank for a moment, as if something inside him shattered, silently. I could almost hear his soul weeping. But what did I care? Jackson was silent for a long time. I had no interest in arguing with him further. Just as I turned to leave, Jackson spoke, his voice utterly calm. I'm sorry, Grace. I won't bother you again. Hearing this, I paused for a moment, then linked arms with Michael and walked forward step by step, never looking back. I heard news of Jackson again over half a year later. After returned, he drank heavily every day and stopped caring about the company. His friends tried to reason with him at first, but later they gave up. His parents must have behaved well during their time inside, as they were released early. The news of Ashley being the other woman spread throughout college, and she was expelled. Jackson also broke up with her. Later, I don't know how Ashley got entangled with his parents, but the few of them conspired to drug him, hoping to get pregnant and conceive a child to secure a higher status. Even more shocking, his parents, after being released for less than a month, incurred massive loans. Knowing that Jackson wouldn't care about their fate, they directly stole company secrets and sold them to a competitor. The company went bankrupt, and Jackson disappeared, no one knew where. I read these messages and glanced back at Michael, who was pretending to work nearby. Michael, stop pretending. Were you involved in all of this? I wasn't involved in that much, really. Blame his parents for being truly malicious. Who told him to treat my sister like that? They brought it all on themselves. Michael looked at my expressionless face, and his voice gradually faded. I sighed helplessly, walked over, and sat on the sofa by the window. Michael, all that is in the past now. Why bother dirtying your hands? Still, I'm truly glad to see them get their comeuppance. Didn't I tell you? I'm just like Michael, extremely petty. The papers on the table rustled in the wind. I stood up and walked to the window. Just as I was about to close it, I suddenly caught sight of a 17-year-old boy in a school uniform waving at me. I heard the 17-year-old me say, "Don't forgive him. Move forward, and don't look back." Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.